Hello, the video you're about to watch originally aired on November 1st, 2023. Unfortunately, on January 9th of this year, 2024, a retailer filed a copyright violation against this particular original video. And it was terminated by YouTube because I used two photos to promote a fragrance from a brand that the retailer had commissioned. I reached out to this said retailer and asked them to retract the copyright, and I can give them credit for the photo usage, but they did not answer me or my message. You can find out more about this situation in a recent channel updates video I did, linked here, but the video is now re-uploaded with portions missing. The photos and the entire portion featuring the brand that is in question have been removed, and there is this blank spot in the video from one fragrance to another fragrance. But you guys have been coming to me and asking me what happened to certain videos, including this one. This one was terminated by YouTube because of the copyright violation against my channel, which penalized my channel. And also I've made private a ton of different videos featuring brands that this said retailer sells. So little by little I'll be remaking live the videos that have been made private. But for now you can watch this video again since it's re-uploaded. Yeah, ready for this? So stay tuned to find out about 20 fragrances that will make you smell like an animal. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today I'm talking about Animalic fragrances. Are you a fan? Do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out if you are a fan or if you're not a fan. If you are a fan, do let me know what your favorite Animalic fragrances are. If you're not a fan, do let me know why you don't like Animalic fragrances. So I can tolerate Animalic fragrances to an extent. I can't really handle extremely Animalic fragrances. And I'm a person that grew up in the era of, fragrances that did feature Animalic notes, at a time where fragrances did feature the realistic Animalic notes. Unfortunately, these days when people are using the synthetic stuff, it doesn't smell as good as the real authentic stuff. That's the sad thing. No, there are the rare occasions people can make synthetics smell really all natural, but a lot of times they smell literally like shit, and I don't care for it. But because of that, I can tolerate Animalic fragrances, but not overdosed with Animalics, so to an extent. But some of these fragrances to me smell great, some are very challenging, and to me some are not as Animalic as they are to other people. So this is all very subjective. You might find something I find very Animalic, not Animalic, and vice versa. I might find something not very Animalic, and you might find it very Animalic. So lastly, I want to say, what are Animalic notes? What are Animalic fragrances? Typically, Animalic fragrances in the past usually combined using Animalic notes from animals like deer musk, Castoreum, there's civet, and then there's a few Animalic notes that also are used that do not harm the animal itself, like Ambergris, which comes from an animal, and it's the regurgitation. It's basically whale poop. And then there's Hyrax, which is the droppings of an animal. There might be other Animalic notes. These are the most popular. And of course, a lot of these that, utilize the real animal, they have created, synthetic versions of these notes. And that's what I was saying. It's like some of them do not really smell great. If you overdose it to try and make it really Animalic, maybe perhaps you're trying to make something very vintage to smell like a vintage fragrance when they use them in the past, the real things, and sometimes they just don't end up smelling really great. And like I said, literally smell like shit. But we're going to start off with some different fragrances here. Some are Animalic in some ways, eventually turn out to be better when they dry down, but a bit off-putting at first. Speaking of this particular scenario, we've got MILANO FRAGRANZE's GALLERIA, which is a really off-putting start for me. It's very leathery and Animalic. And if you can sit through the Animalics disappearing and burning off and then developing into this kind of gourmandish fragrance, you're in for a ride. But you've got to be into this really funky Animalic leather note. and it's definitely challenging to sit through. But some people like a ride, and this is the kind of fragrance it is, but you've got to be into animalics and gourmands, because for me it kind of goes into this kind of a sweet leather direction, almost to the point of gourmands, but I'm challenged with the top notes. I've gone through it, I've worn it, really off-putting, but then really, you know, climax for this fragrance with what it settles to. So not the most animalic, but starts off very off-putting animalic because of the leather accord they have in here. It's Galleria from Milano FRAGRANZE. Okay, we're jumping right into something really challenging for me.
Government officials insist that this is an isolated incident. We will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds. That's hard to be instead active. Indeed, instead are many scientists have begun studying the virus. Hope to find the cure. Medical. Overwhelmed with medical emergency. If you come in contact with the infected.
So moving on to the house of NISHANE, it's AFRIKA OLIFANT, this one right here. So yeah, this is pretty animalic for a fragrance. This is not one of the more popular ones from NISHANE, but if you're into the idea of a animalic leathery kind of fragrance, definitely try this one. And it's chock full of different kinds of not only animalic notes, but also synthetic variations of them. So we've got Ambergris, Frankincense, Myrrh, Labdanum, Castoreum, Civet, Oud, Muscanone, Thibetone, Muscone, and Civetone. So it's this Civetone note that is very, you know, it's basically a synthetic form of civet, and this one claims that there's real civet in it, and I'm not 100% sure it's real civet, but this is off the NISHANE website, so it could be. But this stuff really is literally like an oud with lots of animalics. So it's got smoky touches from the frankincense, and then also the oud in here. So there's a bit of funk in the oud, but they've got way too much funk added to this. So eventually it becomes a very oudy, woody, smoky, ambery animalic fragrance. Really tough to wear. If you're into the kind of fragrances like this, this is one for you to try, and one from a house called NISHANE that's very popular out there with everyone. I think they're one of the most popular niche houses, but that's definitely one of their most challenging and most animalic. So let me know if you've sampled these three fragrances so far and what your thoughts are on how animalic they are or not. But moving on to a house called ORTO PARISI, this is CUOIUM. So this is a very wearable fragrance for me, but it does get animalic, it does get musky, and of course it's leather, and they've got the leather on this. It's encased in leather, this bottle. So it's a leather, animalic leather fragrance. They don't publish the notes for the fragrances of ORTO PARISI or Nasomato because they are sister houses. But this is quite animalic. But for me, I can wear this one and I'm not challenged with it. Whereas Ambulux, really literally challenged with Ambulux. I don't find it pleasant to wear that one, but I can totally wear this one and really enjoy it. But in the end, it's animalic, it's musky, for sure it's very leathery. There's smoky touches here, and of course woods. There's loads of woods. It's tobacco-ish, there's some tobacco-ish touches here, so I feel like the smokiness and the tobacco kind of go hand in hand. Eventually it's very warm, spicy, settles to a bit of an amber, woody, smoky thing. So that's CUOIUM from the house of ORTO PARISI. Do let me know if you're a fan of that one. And yeah, let me know what you think of these fragrances so far, and if you are a fan or if you're not a fan. So we've got a very indie house next of Visitor with a fragrance called Cabaret Nocturne. This one right here, created by Cécile Zarokian, of all perfumers. I think she does pretty good animalic fragrances. She does a silver oud for the house of Amouage, but Cabaret Nocturne is a very interesting animalic fragrance in that when you wear this fragrance, you're actually experiencing the actual brief that went into creating this fragrance. So it's a very kind of, the picture I get with this is like a late night in a bar and a night of sex after this bar experience. So it's all kinds of, like, there's a lot of flowers, so there's a woman involved for sure, and she's wearing this, tuberose fragrance. But everything after that gets musky, animalic, citrusy, powdery, lots of woods. And then tobacco comes in as well. There's the cumin. There's the sweatiness from the cumin. Smoke for smoking cigarettes. And then drinking a lot of gin. That's the experience I get with this one. So there's a picture you can paint with all the notes. It just kind of somehow comes to mind. But maybe that's also the brief that went into it. But I can also visualize this totally happening with all of these notes come to mind. So it's very animalic. It's really, really challenging to wear this one. And if you're into the idea of musk, sweat, sex, everything like that mixed together, you've got to try this one. It's definitely for folks that can tolerate the fragrances and not for the faint of heart. But moving on to the house of Francesca Bianchi, and she does a lot of animalic fragrances. Some that are like little touches of animalics, and some that are like overdosed in animalics. And for me, I feel like the Lover's Tale is the most animalic in her collection. As soon as I smelled it, it was like, wow, that's really funky. That's got a lot of funk and animals. So you can smell like an animal with the whole Francesca Bianchi perfumery DNA, because she's got a DNA. It's here, but once you put this on skin, the animals really jump off of you. So leather, castoreum, orris, musk, labdanum, honey, heliotrope, oak moss, jasmine, mimosa. And once again, with this one, I kind of get a similar idea to Cabaret Nocturne, the previous fragrance. It definitely involves sex. There's this very much, it's an after sex kind of an experience with this fragrance. It's called the Lover's Tale. So there's a lot of animalics that are involved. The experience, the sweat, and everything together mixed in. Definitely, it's an animalic overdose. I wouldn't say this is the most animalic, because we've got some stuff here. It's wearable, but challenging. Whereas Marlou's Ambulux, not wearable whatsoever. This one you can wear as you're being challenged. But again, if you're challenged with animalic notes, this one might be a bit too much for you. But the Lover's Tale from Francesca Bianchi, check that out if you don't know it. Moving on to a house called Roberto GRECO, an artist that has a collection of fragrances. He's just launched his third fragrance. This is Porter's Sapo, this one right here. And it's all about skin. The skin, perhaps a lover's skin or something like that. But it's a bit challenging for this one too, and because it involves aldehydes. To me, it also kind of, reminiscent of some, animalic fragrances from the 80s that involved aldehydes. For example, something like Tuberose, not smelling the same, but because it's got animalics involving also aldehydes, and Tuberose is also aldehydes and kind of animalic, I gotta get a similar kind of a vibe with this one. But this is a bit different than that. It's not necessarily civet and aldehydes. It's different notes. This one has hyrax, but aldehydes with narcissus, musk and leather, patchouli, ambergris, ylang ylang, hawthorn, akigala wood. To me, this one is a bit more challenging to wear than the previous release that came before this, because the previous release was also a bit animalic, but also reminded me of a vintage Jules from Dior. This one, just a little too challenging to wear, and I think it's just overdosed in a lot of hyrax, and the ambergris note that comes in here is a bit too much as well, all mixed in with everything else. Leather could be kind of throwing me off a little bit as well. But if you guys know this house, do let me know. They are sold at Lucky Scent. I think the previous fragrance is out of stock though, the Oyer, I think that's what it's called, and it definitely reminded me of a vintage take on Jules, maybe a little animalic take on Jules. But that one, again, reminiscent of some classics, but very, very challenging to wear. Moving on to a house called S. Baker. It's Sarah Baker's additional line called S. Baker. This is Bascule, this one right here. So I have a friend that wears this one. Whoa. I absolutely cannot wear this fragrance. It smells like a horse barn. Literally, it's a horsey fragrance. It's got peach, leather, tobacco, grass, hay, metallic notes, vetiver, fir, bergamot, musk, lily of the valley, amber. Literally, it's something about this fragrance that it smells good, and animalic and unwearable at the same time because everything around it smells great. But once you pick up the horse barn, like literally there's horses, like you can smell horses in a barn, and when you're walking by these horses you can get their smell essence, and then you're also smelling the barn together, all mixed in with all the other notes that's in here. But the horses, barn, and the horses are dominating in this fragrance, and this friend wears this and loves it, and I don't get it, but they supposedly don't like animalic fragrances, and this one to me is very animalic. Very, very challenging to wear. Again, not animalic to some people, but some people pick up certain things and some don't. And for me, this one's animalic, but for this person, it's not. I don't know if you guys have sampled this one, but if you like horsey fragrances, definitely check out Bascule from the S. Baker collection. So this next one might not be as animalic, but to me it does come off animalic and still a bit challenging but wearable fragrance. Going to the House of Fragrance Du Bois, it's PM, Producer Michael's fragrance. It's leather, tuberose, juniper, labdanum, cardamom, patchouli, orris, amber, benzoin, and woodsy notes. If you haven't caught my video with Producer Michael about this fragrance, please go catch it on the channel because we talk extensively about his fragrances and how he created this fragrance. But to me, it's kind of like cocaine, and I think he mentioned this in the video. It's very leathery, and the tuberose is in here quite a bit. But the leather in here is animalic. And again, this one is wearable. I'm not challenged with it like some other fragrances like the Bascule, like the Ambulance, and the Porter Sapot. Really tough to wear. This one is wearable and tolerable, but I've heard from people say this is too animalic, really, really tough to wear, and can't do it and things like that. But let me know your thoughts on PM. Are you a fan of it? Do you enjoy it? I'd like to find out. But moving on to the next fragrance, and I've heard from people this is very animalic. I absolutely love this one, and I like the animalics in this enough to really enjoy a fragrance like this because it's covered in Lily of the Valley, and Lily of the Valley has this clean soapiness, but they've mixed in civet and musk and jasmine to give it that kind of vintage animalic boost. This is Goldman from Amouage. Wow, this is so good. This is absolutely really a dreamy fragrance, and I love the vintage qualities. But yeah, it's definitely animalic. When you put it on skin, you'll definitely experience the civet and the musk. And most likely they're using the synthetic variety of civet in this. And I think the amount and the way they've used it is perfection. Really, really great. The dirtiness against that clean, green, soapy Lily of the Valley in here is so magical. I absolutely love it. See, this is the kind of fragrance I really love when it comes to animalics. Give me a little bit of it, give me a little bit of a dosage of it in a fragrance, and I'll enjoy it. Either way, this is Amouage's Goldman. Check it out if you don't know it. Very underhyped fragrance, but unfortunately this next one is uber animalic, extremely animalic, tough to wear. But the thing is, it got tough to wear as my nose got used to it. But at first, it was full-on gourmand. I'm talking about a house called Extra Virgo, and this is Cacao Ritual, this one right here. Are you guys familiar with this one? This brand was nominated at the Art and Olfaction Awards recently, and they're from Italy. They were in LA when they were holding that event. But this is cacao, Moroccan jasmine, patchouli, cloves, civet, and castoreum. How many of you likes the idea of combining animalic notes with gourmand notes? Does it work for you or does it not? We've got another one that's coming soon, and I'm going to tell you about that one. That was not wearable whatsoever. But this one also, it's tough. It's extremely tough. The civet and castoreum really shine on me. Once you put it on skin, amplifies the smell of the civet and the castoreum, and it cuts through that chocolate and just makes it like an animalic, tough animal to wear. Anyway, Extra Virgo Cacao Ritual. Let me know your thoughts on that one. This next one's a fragrance called Golden Ambergris from Anonyme. This one's really tough to wear. It's a trio of fragrances. There's the black, silver, and the golden. And the golden is the strongest. It's so animalic, extremely animalic. Although this one and also the fragrance from the house of Strangelove, they have a fragrance called Silence the Sea. Man, that is one of the most, I don't even know what to say about it because I can't even get close to it. It's got such a sharp metallic animalic quality. As soon as I put my nose on it, it really cuts through my nose, almost like creating a cut through the nose for some reason. But that stuff is really, really strong. But this stuff here is actually an animal, like crappy, poopy kind of an animalic smell. It's almost like there's a major dosage of civet or castoreum in here, along with the ambergris. But it's leather, sandalwood, spices, and of course ambergris and orris. Really, really tough to wear here. That is Anonyme Golden Ambergris. But this next one is super, super sexy. But some people find it very, very animalic. It's Serge Lutens Musks Club Lacan, this one right here. This is one of the sexiest musks out there. And definitely it can be challenging. It's very sweaty. It smells like sex, people say. It's civet, musk, ambrette, amber, labdanum, rose, and cumin. But it's a really, really great creation. Really job well done by Christopher Sheldrake. If he created this one, most likely he did. But one of the best musks out there, but definitely on the animalic side. But for me, this one comes and goes. Sometimes it's a bit more challenging. Sometimes it's really, really enjoyable. So it depends on my chemistry and my mood. It's just strange. But this is a really, really great fragrance from Serge Lutens. It's Musks Club Lacan. Wonderful offering. And same with this one. This one is Papillon Perfumery Salome. This one right here. Wonderful, wonderful offering. Really animalic with castoreum, hyrax, cumin, jasmine, oak moss. But to me, it's like a really beefy take on Jean Desprez Bala Versailles. If you're a fan of that one, which used to be a lot more animalic, this is your great alternative. But you've got to be into animalics. And there's also cumin in here. So there's a sweaty, sexy vibe about it as well. And it's just, some people are turned off by it. I know people that are really turned off by it, but they love, you know, fragrances in this style. And I know some people that love it and they just want it all over them. So it depends on the person and how sensitive you are to the castoreum and the hyrax in here. Remember, the hyrax is the hyraceum. It's like a cat, like an animal in Africa that has these droppings, and that's what they use in this fragrance. But man, it smells good. To me, it smells great. This Papillon Perfumery Salome. But you know what? When I first started wearing this one, it's from Zoologist Perfume Sacred Scarab. To me, the animalics did not come out much, but lately, oh man, it's gotten so animalic on me, and I've gotten used to it somehow, and the animalics are really, really coming through. But this is Sacred Scarab from Zoologist Perfumes, and man, it is, I think it's got a lot of fans. If you like, you know, the style of Sultan Pasha who created this, you're going to really enjoy this one. It's very aldehydic and also ambery. There's loads of resins in here. There's this interesting wine note. There's plums and raisins, but it's the civet. I think it's the civet that comes in that really, really challenges me. And I don't know what kind of civet they're using in here, but wow, it's pretty intense. And on skin, it's even much stronger. But for some reason, when I was testing it out earlier, it didn't come out much. So maybe it'll change again. But to me, this is very animalic. I don't know if you guys have sampled it or not. Sacred Scarab, a very animalic fragrance. Smells like an animal, for sure. It's inspired by zoologists, animals, for that fragrance. But the next fragrance I'm talking about is Jungle Jezebel from Sarah Baker's original line, this one right here. So this is civet, bubblegum, banana, grapes, peach, tuberose, ylang ylang, and vetiver. And the civet is so strong in this, extremely, extremely strong, intense. You've got this very, very fecal smelling civet, along with like this very happy, bright, poppy kind of girlish notes. So it's a very interesting contrast. Matches the design, doesn't it? But if you like animalic fragrances and a bit kind of vintage-esque, because this has a very vintage vibe to me, kind of paying tribute to like maybe 80s and 70s fragrances for the ladies, but very, very bright with a very, very intense civet note that comes alive in the base notes. Although when you smell it, put your nose to this, it's there. It's definitely there, but it intensifies as it's drying down. So this is Jungle Jezebel, very animalic fragrance. Then we've got Collage Love Toxin. This one, I'm so extremely challenged with this one. I can't even put it on skin. Absolutely not. It's just a very, very, oh my God, like it's almost like mulled wine macerated and just boiling on a stovetop, and you've thrown in animals and it's cooking live. It's gross to think of that, but that's how animalic this one comes off to me. Because mulled wine is kind of fruity, but you've got spices in there and things like that. But then there's animals swimming in there. It's just a gross thought, actually. But that's the kind of experience I get with this one, and I'm extremely challenged. It's got castoreum, it's got cumin, rose, coconut, hay, leather, strawberries, tuberose, plums, and peaches. Love toxin is so tough to wear. I can't do it. Anyway, let me know if you're a fan of it and if you enjoy wearing that fragrance. All right, more unwearable fragrances. Parfums Doucitas Oud Infini. Oh my God, one of the skankiest, most fecal oud fragrances that I've put my nose on. I just am extremely challenged with this one. Really, really challenged. It's civet after all. They have civet, they have Laotian oud, they have rose, benzoin, orange blossom, sandalwood, musk, and vanilla. Most people swear that this settles down to a really gorgeous fragrance, but who wants to sit through all that challenging civet note? Absolutely not. It's tough, tough, tough to wear. And I don't need to wear oud to, I don't need to like sit through animalics to enjoy oud. I'm already bored of oud anyway, but this one's really tough. Oud Infini from the house of Doucita. And then speaking of oud, we've got another one. This one's from the house of Terenzi. This is Temple. Boy, this one's tough. And I spoke about Lily of the Valley earlier with this fragrance, Goldman from Amouage. This one is Lily of the Valley, but this one is not dominated by the Lily of the Valley. It's dominated by the oud, which is extremely animalic. And they've got Lily of the Valley in the top notes, heart notes, and base notes. But still, the oud in the base notes is dominating the heck out of this fragrance. You do pick up the Lily of the Valley, but man, it is so freaking skanky and fecal smelling. Oh man. There's no mention of like animalic notes, but the oud, on the other hand, smells like an animal, and I don't want to wear it. So Temple from Terenzi is really tough. And for me, I'm going to end the list with this most animalic fragrance that I don't get why anybody would wear this one. This is from the house of Xerjoff, although it used to be a collection called Chemi, and the fragrance is called Chemi in the old bottle. Now it's moved into the Xerjoff bottles. It's called Xerjoff Chemi. And I don't know the current version, but I do see that it's back. This version is gourmand notes with all the animals you can imagine appearing together. So it's oud caramel, castoreum civet, gurgeon balsam cedar, vanilla sandalwood woods. Literally very, very shitty fragrance. Unwearable. Yes, I've decanted some to a friend who wanted some. But somebody not challenged me, said, you're going to really love this. And I'm like, okay, there was a deal somewhere way long ago, like, I don't know, like 2015, 2016. They said, you're going to love this one. Get it. It's been that long since I've had it. And it still smells the same. It doesn't get old because it's all like dark notes. And oh man, I couldn't do it. Absolutely could not do this fragrance. Literally not my cup of tea. But anyway, there's fans of it out there, as you can see. That's not me wearing it. This is Chemi by Xerjoff. And that's the last fragrance for you. If you want to smell like an animal, try these fragrances. But do you really want to smell like an animal? Some people do like to smell like animal, but I don't. Well, yes, sometimes I do. And to an extent. Some of these are great. I can totally wear them. But some of them are really, really challenging. So if you like these fragrances, do let me know. If you hate them, do let me know. Also let me know of others. Which fragrances do you consider very animalic that you enjoy wearing? Which fragrances do you consider very animalic that you don't enjoy wearing? Please put a comment down below so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And back with a little bit of a bonus here. We've got a fragrance from the house of Rammstein called Sex, but I don't get any animalics from that fragrance. This is it right here. But they do have an elixir version of it also that came together with it. Now that one gets animalic. So I think you can wear the two together to kind of balance each other out. But Sex Elixir is musk, civet, jasmine, skin note, costus, woods, sandalwood, balsamic notes. So to me this might sound like it's extremely animalic. It's actually wearable. And it's wearable on its own, but if you combine it with the original Sex, it makes for a very interesting wear that is really, really enjoyable. Because the original doesn't go animalic. It also has coffee as a note. It smells really, really great. I really, really enjoy it. But to combine together, it adds that funk, a bit of animalic quality, and it just balances out the fragrance and makes it for a much wearable experience. I don't know if this is still selling because these fragrances are very limited edition, but if you can find it, get it. But I think the fragrances normally sell for around 35–40 euros in Germany, where the brand is from, which is basically a band. But anyway, I just wanted to offer up an extra fragrance for you. It's Rammstein's Sex and Sex Elixir. Hopefully you enjoyed this video on animalic fragrances. See you guys later. Bye.